Welcome to On Purpose Coaching, where we challenge you to do better on purpose. Hey, welcome to Enneagram'd On Purpose. This is a segment of On Purpose Planning and Consulting. I'm your host, Coach Joanie, and I am here tonight to talk with a Type 9. So my friend Missy is joining us, my lovely friend Missy. We were just talking about how we've missed each other. We haven't seen each other in forever, actually since May. So she's just going to introduce herself, let us know who she is, a little bit about her, and then we're going to hop right in. So, hey, Missy.
Hey, Joanie. It's great to be with you today. Yeah. So I am a busy mom of two, and I identify as an Enneagram 9, and that's what we're here to talk about. So I'm super excited. So
yes, and we were just talking like she just got a chance to get away, not necessarily vacation, but definitely a family trip. So there's a difference. There's a difference, everyone. We don't get to enjoy ourselves as much when we're trying to tell the kids to put the sunblock on, like she was saying. Put your sunblock on. We don't want them to burn to smithereens. So let's hop right into our Type 9s. We love our 9s. They're our peacemakers, our mediators, our friends that just kind of keep things moving in motion with each other, around us. They're very accepting. They like to see different perspectives, which can get annoying sometimes because we're like, just be on my side. But 9s are very good at seeing all perspectives, and they always look for the silver lining, right? They hunt for the gold. But sometimes when they're not feeling so healthy, they move into that passive aggressive space cadet, like I'm not going to deal with it, and if I do deal with it, I want to do it where I'm going to be mean, but not really. So they're just in the really confusing space, but we love them. They're motivated by having a peace of mind inwardly and outwardly. So it's very important for them to have their inner peace and their outer peace, but then they fall into sometimes those fears of loss or separation or dissension. So if they're looking for that peaceful encounters with friends, family, children, loved ones, anything that is divisive is like a red alarm for them. So Missy, what do you kind of resonate with, just jumping offhand, and some of the basics about a 9?
some of the basics about a 9, I would say that I'm not passive aggressive, but my husband would tell you, oh yeah, you are.
Yeah.
That's his favorite part about the 9, and he's like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah,
What pieces
that
of
kind
this
of stands
resonated
out.
with you?
With that,
So what pieces of this resonated with you?
the all perspectives. I love the ability to hear people out and to truly listen to all sides.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really just like a gift.
Okay.
I've really learned to just become more of a critical listener when I'm hearing somebody out, or they're having a conflict, or they're having an issue, and just asking those pointed questions, and then saying, hey, well, have you ever thought about it this way? And I know that's not something you love when I say, oh, hey, what if we looked at it in a different direction? And it's really kind of getting people to just not make a decision kind of rashly.
Okay.
Being able to see all those sides.
Okay. What about the motivations and fears?
Definitely always on the peace side of things. Like I don't like conflict to the point where I'll actually go ahead and admit this on here. Like there have been intersections where I don't like to turn left because they feel conflicting.
That's so funny.
I don't share that, now it's out there. But it's just that much of wanting peace, conflict. I have learned to engage in healthy conflict. And I'll say most of the time it's more of like a Holy Spirit type conviction for me, where it's something for Jesus. I'm like, okay, I can engage in this kind of conflict because I'm going to love with truth in mind.
There you go. Okay. And those fears, what about loss or separation, dissension or divisiveness?
Yeah, I would say definitely the fears of, like losing a friendship. Like,
Mhm.
I always go the extra mile because I don't
Yep.
want to disappoint someone, or I don't want to have a separation from them. So it's just like,
Exactly.
I just kind of go with the flow, even though sometimes I have an opinion because I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to lose the friendship.
That's right. And that's called merging. And our nines love to merge sometimes. But they're thoughtful, they're reassuring, receptive, accommodating for us. But um, again, as those core fears pop up, being in conflict, tension, discord, feeling shut out and overlooked. To your point, you already mentioned it. Losing that connection or relationship with others is very bothersome. So they try to stay away from that by keeping that inner stability and keeping that peace of mind. Um, but then sometimes, as they kind of get into the groove of things, or if they fall into a rhythm, their core weakness of that slothfulness kind of sets in, or laziness, as some people would call it. I like the slothfulness better because it doesn't necessarily mean I'm lazy. It just means I've kind of fallen out of my rhythm for a nine. And they remain in an unrealistic and idealistic world, right? Trying to keep that peace, trying to keep things easy going and make sure there's no issues, um, that they're not disturbed by their anger. Sometimes even literally taking naps and just kind of zoning or conking out is what ends up happening. Um, and then to their passions, their abilities. The type nines sometimes have troubles really diving into the things of their life that they really secretly, sometimes because they don't share it with others, is all of their passions and their um, purpose that they have in life. So sometimes they just need that, what we call in the Enneagram world for a nine, that right action. As soon as they get that in their mind, that they're like, this is what I'm going to do, this is how I'm going to do it, and nobody's changing their mind. And that's really that growth step for a nine, so that, to your last point, you're not merging with others in order to keep that peace and keep that harmony. And one thing that nines definitely need to hear more of is that their presence matters. That's their core longing. They just want to be heard. They want to be known in the room. They want people to acknowledge them for what they do bring to the table. Because just because your nines don't speak a lot, right? You guys don't. You're not the loudest in the room. You're not the most boisterous person in the room. But our nines have lots of good things to say, and sometimes it gets buried by us eights, louder people who are more forthright, right, to talk, and that really kind of drowns them out. So wanting people to know that I matter, my presence matters, is very important to a nine, because then they fall into that defense mechanism, right, where they avoid conflict altogether. They want to maintain that image of being, I just need to be comfortable. There doesn't need to be any issues. So even if there's a problem, they'll be like, no, it's fine. It's not a problem. Let's just move on. But really, what's happening is they're becoming the Hulk on the inside, and we're just waiting for Mr. Banner to break the clothes and come out, and we're just like, now we're all scared, right? And we want to stay away from that because that's what happens. So just really kind of taking another level to the nine here as we talk through this. What do you think about this? Like, how does this fit with you and your life, and how you operate?
Yeah, it really kind of, I mean, I really identify with the nine, and with these when, but it helps me now that I know that, to know when I'm falling in, especially to the slothfulness. I'm learning more and more to just reach out and be like, hey, okay, I'm falling asleep. you know,
Yes.
I'm falling asleep to the things I need to be doing. For me, it usually is a sign that I'm overwhelmed. There's too many things going on at once.
Okay.
And so I can't focus on any of them. So because there's too many. So if I
Yeah.
can't do one and all of them, I shut down. And so like, that's how I fall into slothfulness. It's, I mean, even with, we're recording this right now with a pandemic going on, school starting up in the fall. And, I'm starting to feel a little overwhelmed. They keep changing what's going to happen with the school program. And it's like every week it's something different. And I'm like, I want to settle into something. And it's like, I can't find peace with it.
Yes.
So I have to fight the urge to take a nap every day, literally.
Yeah.
Like when I start thinking about it too much, I'm like, okay, I can't deal with this. So I just need to take a little snooze here.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that, because there's a lot of people dealing with the uncertainty of this season, and it's really hard to try to stay away or not to fall into our core weaknesses. And you just kind of talked a little bit about that with that slothfulness of, if I can't focus, I do nothing, or if I can't get a hold of it, then I do nothing. It's not because you don't want to, but just because it becomes way too much, way too overbearing in your mental, that it's just like, no, I have no peace in that space. I'm just going to avoid that. So what have you been doing? You said you've been fighting it. So what are maybe tell another 9, how have you been dealing with trying to, stay away from falling into that trap?
Yeah, I think the first step is recognizing when you're in it.
Okay.
So recognizing,
yeah.
go ahead. Yeah. So recognizing that I'm falling into it is that like first step. Like I'm like, oh, I'm getting a little more sleepy, literally sleepy. Like
Okay.
I'm feeling tired. I'm feeling like, I'm not sure I can handle anything, let alone one more thing.
Okay.
And then my next step was to start reaching out.
Okay.
Maybe text a friend and say, hey, I'm starting to feel a little overwhelmed.
Yep.
I often will ask someone for prayer, like, reach out, have a prayer partner. I can't recommend that enough. Like, reaching out to someone to just lift you up, especially when you're feeling kind of lost and a little bit confused and overwhelmed. And really just pressing in and into like worship sometimes will pull me out, like, being able to listen to something, uplifting, because like a lot of times it's just too many thoughts in my head that are overwhelming me. So if I could just focus on one thing, so let's make that focus God, and just press in and get into worship. And then it's like, okay, now I can start moving again. I don't have to sit. And I would say the other thing that I don't do well, that I'm working through, is still making those task lists for me, like having that to-do list. Because if I know what I need to get done and I prioritize what needs to get done, I'm less likely to start feeling overwhelmed.
Exactly, because you're drawing it down to the one thing, right? And then you pull from the funnel and you pick your one thing. That's so good. And I really want to come back to your very first point, because, and we'll talk a little bit about this. We don't deep dive too far into it, but 9s, much like 3s and 6s, are dominant and repressed in the same center. So you're in the gut triad. However, it's hard for you all to get into your body, to get it moving and to get things done, because of the overwhelmness, like you just talked about, or the things of life that come upon you. So I think that's very good that you pointed that out. And I wanted to reiterate for 9s is that you've got to get into your body. You got to get into your body. You've got to notice how you're feeling, what your triggers are, and those are going to be the things to help you move through your weaknesses, through those deadly traps that get you sidetracked, that send you off the road into those detrimental bad behaviors. So that is so good. And I just wanted to reiterate that, because that's so good. So really just rolling right into the triads. Like I mentioned, you're in the gut triad. You're very intuitive about things. And in your case, with the realm of your environment. So that peace and understanding whether there's discord, or understanding whether there's dissension, or if something's off or something's not right, you're able to pick up on that kind of immediately, because it's like a frequency, right? It almost interferes with your inner frequency. So you're able to pick that up. But the emotional struggle that myself as well, I'm an 8, 8s, 9s, and 1s struggle with is anger. And I'll talk a little bit about it in slides to come, but Some numbers overdo it, some numbers underdo it, and some numbers are in conflict with their emotional struggle. So I'm an 8, I overdo it. You're a 9, you underdo it. And ones are in conflict. They're like, it's not actually happening. For you, you're like, it's not actually happening, excuse me. And the ones are just like, I'm going to stuff it on the inside and I'll figure it out later. So for you, when you're stuffing it down, trying to keep the peace, right? I'm not going to say anything. How do you keep from the emotional outburst? Or if you do have these emotional outbursts, like what does that whole situation look like for you?
Yeah. I would say it's really not pretty when it does happen.
Oh yeah, I do know.
Because it's been stuffed for a while, and and I think it's Lisa Turkhurst. It's stuffed with the retaliation rocks. That would be more me. So I'll bring up things, I'll trudge up things in the past. So if I'm in a passive aggressive type, anything you've done in the past to wrong me is coming up too.
That's right.
So it's not just current situations.
Yeah.
But and it's always little triggers. It's nothing ever big, I think, for a 9.
Yeah.
It's just, hey, you didn't put the lid on something, for the 100th time when I've been asking you for 99 times to put the lid on. Yeah. And this 100th time just happens to be the time that I get into this passive aggressive fit, and I'll just go off on a tangent about why you never put the lid on and how I always got to do it for you.
That's right. You unleash your fury, right? Yeah. And because also in our triad, there's a desire for justice. I've been wronged in a way that I've given you the benefit of the doubt 99 times.
Right.
And now I'm out for blood, right? I am seeking justice for my 99 injustices that I've tried to have peace about. I've tried to go along with the flow about, and now it's like, nope, it's a problem. And that's that doing imbalance. So to be more healthy is to address things head on, right? To be more healthy is to actually grab some of that 8 wing and say, hey, here's what's been happening, right? On the second or third time. And it's like, this is how I'm feeling. I'm going to pull from my heart triad. And here's why I think the way that I do. I'm going to pull from my head triad. And then lastly, I'm going to pull, and then this is what I'm going to do about it. So walking ourselves through all 3 triads is what we want to learn to do. How do I feel about it? What do I think about it? And what am I going to do about it? But because we're, in the triad of doing for yourself, you're doing nothing. And that's what leads to the issues of passive aggressiveness. So I love this quote. We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are. And I think that is so good because we never are able to pull ourselves out of our core fears, our core weaknesses, because our lenses are just very jaded. It's the mask we've created for ourselves in order to survive, in order to protect ourselves. And it's what leads to those emotional struggles of all of our numbers. And that even goes right into our stances. So you even mentioned about the past. And I'm going to bring up every single thing that I've ever remembered about everything about you. And it's so funny because all of the stances have an orientation to time, and 4, 5s, and 9s have one to the past. So that becomes so important, especially in communication. So when I'm communicating with a spouse, or I'm communicating with my children and they happen to be in another stance, conversations can go real wrong real fast, or just be miscommunicated altogether because you're coming from a different time stance. So my husband's a 4. He comes from the past when we're talking about things, and it's so hard because I'm future. So I'm like, how are we going to move forward? Can we just come up with a plan so we can keep going? And he's like, but this happened, and last time, and before. And I'm like, okay, we don't live there. Can we all just move on? Right. But I also, with that being said, how he and I need to work is to actually do what the last stance, which is to bring it to the present. We both need to be talking about what's happening right now. So just think about that too. Like when you're talking, to your husband or your children, what stance are they? Like where do they even fall on that? Because if not, it leads to your withdrawal. Can't say that word right. It leads you to be doing repressed, like we talked about, where you hit the snooze button, and you're only going to be processing through thinking and feeling, and your doing goes out the door. And the 4s, 5s, and 9s also just struggle with practical life, like basics, which is what you were saying about a tool that to use is that to-do list. That if I got it out in front of me, I'm prioritizing what needs to happen, I'm more apt to start to not be doing repressed. And I'm actually working towards not shutting down and withdrawing from my relationships, from my, the people around me, because then what's that going to do? That's going to interrupt your peace. So then it's just also just compounding on top of each other. So what do you think about the different stances and kind of where you fall? Like, how does that look? What does that look like in your life?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I definitely resonate where the 9 falls with the stance. I never really thought about it. My husband's a 3.
Okay.
When I look at that, yeah, I mean, like he is very future oriented. That's definitely him. I never thought about the conversations that we have and thinking about stances. That's actually super helpful.
Yeah.
But I definitely resonate, thinking and feeling. I'm thinking through things, feeling through things, and I like to talk through things too. And so that's helpful too, to just know that those are my typical stance. But yeah, bringing up the past.
Do you even feel like because you've thought it through or felt it through that you've done it? Do you sometimes feel like, but I've done it. I did do it. Because I hear that a lot from 9s or people who are in relationships with 9s, that they end up getting in arguments with them because they're like, I did do what it was you asked me to do. And actually they didn't, right? They thought about it and they might have felt it, but they did. And they might have even put a whole plan together in their mind. But
in their head. Yeah.
In their head. But there was no action. Like, do you sometimes run into that where you feel like you've actually done something, but
I would, and again, like, my husband, would say, absolutely, he's like, no, we never really talked about that. And I'm like, oh yeah, we did. I put a whole plan together. Remember, we're going to do that. He's like, look, I'm not in your head.
Not in your head.
I'm like, are you sure? A lot easier.
That's right. So that's definitely just to think about for a 9, just to, especially when dealing with your spouses and people that are close to you, is that you may have thoroughly thought things through. You may have actually taken the time to maybe even like set something up, but until you like walk through that same process, your thought process with your loved ones, they're going to feel left out. They're going to feel like you've either ignored or you're just putting it off, right? They're going to give you that you never do anything, or you say you're going to do stuff and you don't, even though you're like, no, I really actually took the time and I have a whole plan. So the idea, again, get into your body. Get into your body is going to be your number one thing to kind of take away today. Is like, get out of your head, get out of your heart, get into your body, and because you're already doing the other two, right? So get into your body, start feeling, start doing will definitely help in that area. And then we even move into the dominant emotive reactions. These are just your natural energies to life. So for 3s, 6s, and 9s, the triangle, you express the force of your energy by unconsciously disconnecting. So you suppress, you extract, you try to take away, you lose contact, you get out of touch. Versus 8s, 2s, and 5s, we go about it by exaggerating it, and we go over the top, and we externalize, and we're very expressive. And then 1s, 4s, and 7s, they actually give over to it, and they just become very compliant, very dutiful, and say whatever you say. And they internalize it, they ingest it, and they idealize this situation for themselves and how they think it should be, but they don't actually act that out in real life. So able to start to understand that about the loved ones in our lives is so important. And as a 9, it's how you end up in, like the last piece says, losing touch, because you're disconnecting, and most of the time it's unconsciously. You're not really doing it purposefully, right? You're not intentionally doing it, but because that piece has been interrupted, or you just don't want the discord or the conflict, you're going along, or that word merging with others around you. Do you find yourself merging with others?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
In what ways do you feel like you do that? Like even like, maybe at church or with other moms in your functions and things that you have, like how does that show up?
Yeah, I think it just shows up in the sense that a lot of times, like what I think doesn't really matter as much. Like
Okay.
I'm just gonna let me do what they're doing, because I'm just gonna go with the flow again. I'm gonna do what they're doing, and I can just merge into what they're doing.
Okay.
I think I'm better at that now, but I think I merged a lot more.
Okay.
In my past, with others. But now I'm learning. The more I dig into who I am, the more confident of that I want to be Missy. I don't want to merge with others. I want to be who God created me to be, and independently of other people.
Yeah, and so my question to that would be, why don't you think they care what you have to say?
Yeah, that's
Where do
a
you
good
think
question.
that came from?
Well, that comes from my childhood, I think. For me particularly, I'm a middle child.
Okay.
So, being overlooked was just part of my life, and whether good or bad, it was just, I learned really early on to just be the good girl and get things done. Maybe I'd be noticed more, or I'm just not going to cause people trouble. So I'm just going to do what's asked of me so that I don't rock the boat.
Okay.
Right from childhood.
Right from childhood.
Right from
Wow.
childhood.
That's like so profound though, like to even think, especially even if they ask you, right? So if they ask you, they obviously want to know what it is that you want to do. So it's almost like a unlearning that has to occur for a 9, right? Because even if someone asked you, what you wanted, what does it look like, and you still answer, well, whatever you want to do.
Right.
That's a definite trigger for you out there, if you're a 9, that you've got growth work to do, right? Because the notion that people don't care, or that you think your presence doesn't matter even after you've been asked, means you got some stuff to work on. So that's good. That was good. A middle child being overlooked, constantly just let me do what I'm supposed to do, so everything can remain calm, and we can have peace around myself and others. That's definitely a way to teach a child how to grow the mask of a 9, because that's what it is, right? It's not who you are. It's not Missy, but it's the mask of a 9 that was created from your past experiences. Awesome. So let's talk through some tips for relating to our 9s. So to create rapport, right? Let's talk with them. Let's take the time to talk about things and establish a common ground, and listen to them and stay peaceful. So if someone gets super like excited in maybe a not good way, aggressive way, like how do you react to that?
In an aggressive way, I retreat.
Okay.
I mean, I just get really quiet, kind of sit back, like, all right. When they calm down, maybe I'll intervene. They calm down. If they don't calm down, I'll just be quiet.
You're like, nope. So yes, listen to them and stay peaceful, guys. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere. And how important is common ground? Is it because you all are always looking for all the perspectives and seeing it everyone's way? Is that why you think it's important to look for a common ground with a 9?
I think that's part of it, but for me also, I'm a connector. Okay. So I need common ground in order to just even have a connection with you, and like be able to kind of get into a deeper relationship.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, and then we can kind of, if we have difference of opinions after that, that's not a big deal. But if we have something in common, we can make a connection.
Okay. That makes sense. So try to avoid coming on too strong. See, just talked about that. Or getting impatient or creating pressure. Right. So Missy, she talked about like all interview long about those overwhelming pressures and how it causes her to retreat and shut down and literally get sleepy. So give nines the time to process. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah.
Give you time to process. Give them time to walk through things before you expect for them to do something. Join them in setting the context and looking at the big picture. Share body-based activities. So we talked about getting in your body, including walking, exercising, cooking, eating, music. And that is so important. You heard me say that several times during the interview. So get out of your head, get into your body. So help them to do that by doing co-activities. So they like to have the connections, the relationships, and body activities are a good way to do that. To handle conflict that you have with a 9, fairness is a crucial issue. So, definitely we go back to presenting all sides. So I would assume if it came one-sided, you'd be like, well, what did the other person say? Or what did the other person do? Do you do that to your kids a lot?
Yep. All the time.
I do that too. That's probably my 9 wing, because I'm always, if someone comes to me with something like a story or whatever's going on, I'm like, okay, but what did you say? Because I want to, we got to look for that fairness. Since they avoided conflict and anger, they're more likely to withdraw, like she talked about, or become passive aggressive with occasional eruptions. So that's when it's like they flip their lid after they've had enough. So try to find out what's going on inside. That's what's going on in their head. And let them know you won't abandon them, right? So that separation and being pulled apart, they don't want that. So let them know that even if it comes out quirky or wonky, that's okay. But you'll be there to listen and to help them process it. So when and if they do blow up, help them set boundaries so that they do not get angry like that again. Like that's the whole idea. So processing for them is very big. Getting out of their head is very big. Sticking around when it happens or if it doesn't is very big. So that's how you work and handle conflict with a 9 and support their growth. So give them personal attention. So like she mentioned, middle child, they got to know they're important too, and that they're wanted, and we want them around, and their presence matters, right? That's their key longing, is that their presence matters. So help them create structures and schedules for their life to keep them on track with priorities. I guess you were going through my info, right? So she already mentioned it's so good. Ask for their cooperation rather than trying to push them around, because that's, again, a surefire way to reiterate the bad thoughts they already have about people not caring about what they have to say or what you want them to do. So here's a little tidbit too. So usually too, if a 9 says they don't care, they truly mean it. They're not trying to be combative. Because I know if I say I don't care, it's because probably I'm mad and I don't want to deal with you anymore. But a 9, if they say like, I don't care, they really mean it. So don't take it personal, and don't try to take them to the street for it. Like they really truly don't know. So for instance, if you have a 9 friend, spouse, sibling, when you want them to start making decisions and help them to be more within the process with everybody else, give them options. So don't just ask them where they want to go eat. Say, do you want Thai, barbecue, or Mexican? And when they choose, here's the key. When they choose, let that be the answer. Don't try to change their mind. Don't try to say, well, why do you want that? Because all you're going to do is reiterate bad behaviors for them to go back to the merging and go back to the, well, whatever you want to do. So we want to keep them away from that. So definitely get them involved in conversations, get them involved in processes, because they won't naturally do it. Okay. Now, a healthy 9 will, but if they're unhealthy or average and you see them like standing around, or if they're not participating, it's not because they're trying to be standoffish, but it's because they're used to thinking that people don't care. So definitely reach out, bring them into the conversation, and then give them options around things instead of leaving it wide open. So challenge them on their need to be comfortable, right? And that's what I'm saying, being by themselves, but accept them and be persistent in bringing them to the table. And then the higher growth transformation for you 9s are waking up to your priorities in the present moment. So if there is conflict, if there are issues, that's okay. Learn how to integrate all of that in your current present moment, and you'll be able to start to live life no matter what's being thrown at you, instead of retreating and instead of just going with the flow. So, Missy, I always ask my people who come and talk with me, what's 1 or 2 things that people need to know about a 9, about you, that would help make relationships and things easier or better?
I think, let me think about that a second.
Yeah.
What you said towards the end, like the restaurants and things like that, like when we say we're okay, we're okay. And I think sometimes people want to fix you.
That's right.
So, like not trying to fix,
Okay.
like
Yeah,
to just, and also like you said, like just knowing when people appreciate who you are, and just your presence, and are just happy to spend time with you. I think most 9s that I've met are very relational. We love spending time, like we genuinely love spending time with other people.
Yeah.
And just like really listening and getting to know you.
Okay.
So like I think just utilizing the giftings that we've been given, because that makes us feel special and present.
Awesome. And I will let it close on that. That's been amazing talking with you tonight, Missy. And again, guys, thank you for stopping by with Enneagram'd On Purpose. This is your coach, Joanie Bob, and we're the channel where we challenge you to do better on purpose. Later.